All right. Welcome back to another episode of Two Plain Sports. Today, we're going to be talking about just the more development on the Lincoln Riley exit of Oklahoma, everything that's happened in the last 24 hours from decommitments to coaches leaving, and also some positive things from DeMarco Murray and the recruits that have backed their decision to be at Oklahoma. Before we get into any of that, we do want to let you guys know we really appreciate all of your support. This last video we posted is doing great, and we loved seeing your guys' comments. We appreciate the likes. Keep subscribing, helps us out a lot. Each and every one of you does help us get to another level, and please continue to do that. And turn on that notification bell, because even though this Lincoln Riley story is what's happening now, we'll be covering OU basketball soon now that it is ramping up, and that will be the sport to watch as well as a bowl game here in a few weeks. So let's get into it. I know Brandon hasn't been on. If you guys watched our last episode, it was me and Brum talking about the aftermath of Lincoln Riley and our thoughts. But Brandon, I want you to go first, because I know you're very outspoken about Lincoln Riley and what you think about him and his exit. But what do you think Oklahoma's future can be like? And I mean, I know you probably have an opinion or two you want to get out about Riley right now.
If you see all the Twitter stuff, I mean, it appears, according to the stuff on Twitter, that the guy that they're targeting is Brent Venables. And I think all three of us here would be ecstatic if that ended up being the guy. I think he'd be in really good shape long term if Brent Venables is the guy, especially if he brings over Levy as the offensive coordinator. Just that's like an Oklahoma reunion. It could be a lot of fun. Lincoln Riley is a piece of shit.
I figured you were going to say that. Anything else? You want to give us your wish list? I know you just mentioned Venables, but I'm sure there's other
Venables,
coaches you think.
I would like. Venables is far and away the guy that I would want more than anybody. I also wouldn't mind seeing Matt Campbell or Luke Fickell.
Yeah, those are two coaches that have had great success at the programs they've been at. Obviously, built them to what they are now. And even though Matt Campbell didn't really live up to his expectations this season, Luke Fickell might be a playoff coach. So we'll see what happens. But I think you're right with Venables. We all hope that's it. You know, obviously he'd be coming back to Oklahoma, and with Levy coming with him, it would be great.
And he helps a lot with, I mean, especially maintaining some of those defensive recruits. We can get into that a little bit later too, but
yeah, the one thing I will say why I don't think it, not that I don't want Luke Fickell, because I think he's a really good coach. The reason why I don't think it will be Luke Fickell is odds are they're going to win their conference championship game this weekend. They're probably going to be in the playoffs. I have a hard time believing that he would leave the team before going to go play in the playoffs. Maybe I'm naive.
Coaches lie, bud.
Well, yeah, but I feel like
you ever heard Nick Saban talk? You ever heard Lincoln Riley talk?
Yeah, but I mean, here's the deal. This is not going to be Luke Fickell's last and only opportunity to go coach at a big time
Luke Fickell,
program.
at the end of the day, knows his Cincinnati Bearcats are not winning a national championship. Playoffs or not, they're not winning a national championship. If they sneak in as the 4 seed, Georgia's going to bend them over the barrel, give it to them, and then Cincinnati's done. So would you rather go experience that? I mean, I don't know. I guess you're in the playoff. You want to see how the game plays out. But deep down in his heart of hearts, he knows Georgia's going to give it to him.
I don't think that's how coaches work.
No, I mean, you know,
Lincoln Riley's coaching our team on the sideline with 1 foot out the door. Brian Kelly's clearly doing the same thing. Brian Kelly's Notre Dame team has a legitimate chance at a playoff, and he's about to go to LSU. Coaches don't give they don't care. They show it all the time. They do not care.
I just feel like Luke Fickell won't leave.
I feel like Lincoln Riley wouldn't leave.
Luke Fickell has had a lot of opportunities to pack up from Cincinnati and go to a bigger program. I mean, he had been approached by USC before, because the AD there was the guy that hired him at Cincinnati. So he's had his opportunities, and I think right now he's set and being with Cincinnati, and things may change in the future for him. Who knows? But I think something that we should talk about is OU's press conference today. The university president and Joe Castiglione and our interim head coach, Oklahoma legend Bob Stoops, all spoke today. And I think there were some backhanded comments there to Lincoln Riley, and it's completely fair. He did leave them in the ruin with taking coaches that aren't going to coach during the bowl game. and putting him in a situation where Oklahoma's never really been before, at least for almost 100 years. We haven't had someone just up and leave from Oklahoma, and we've got to pick it up. And Bob, I don't know about you guys, but watching him speak, listening to the press conference, watching the press conference, one eased my frustration a little bit, because I was frustrated with the situation and how Lincoln dealt with his exit. But Bob showed that he was confident. He made it sound like the head coaching position is going to be filled sooner rather than later. He thinks it'll be done before the bowl game. So I know it's still a little bit of ways, but it's going to happen soon. And he's the right guy to show that Oklahoma's not gutted. I know that's been the phrase a lot of people have used to explain Oklahoma's situation right now, and it's not. We've only had, I know it's frustrating to see kids decommit, but it happens all the time. And really, we've only lost 2 players that were surprise transfers or entries into the transfer portal. We all knew Spencer Rattler was going to leave at the end of this year, or at least it was extremely likely he was going to, because he wasn't going to be the starting quarterback. Obviously, there's still some concern depending on who the head coach is, but Bob Stoops, I think, added a lot of confidence both for the current players and for players that are still sticking to their commitment about moving forward with the Sooners. What do you guys think?
Brandon, you want to go ahead?
Statue.
Another statue.
The dude does. And I agree with what Ho said. It was good to hear him talk, and kind of did, reaffirm everything. At the end of the day, he's not wrong. Oklahoma's not going to stop playing football because piece of shit Lincoln Riley decided he is an idiot. We're going to keep playing football. It is bigger than Lincoln Riley, who has only been there for 5 seasons. Didn't really accomplish anything. We move on. We forget about him, and he's out there recruiting right now, which I think is awesome. That he just, he cares so much. He's a big program guy. And he's exactly like you said. He's definitely the right guy to lead us into that bowl game, and hopefully he beats the brakes off of some SEC team in the Alamo Bowl or whatever we're gonna play in, and then hopefully it's Venables or somebody that we trust a lot, and we move forward strong. But at the end of the day, they're gonna find somebody good, and Oklahoma football does not stop just because Lincoln Riley is an idiot.
Yeah, obviously some people are like, well, maybe Bob will decide that he wants to come out and coach full time. I don't see that ever happening at this point. I think he's 61 years old now. I think he's done. He's just going to hang around like Barry Switzer probably, and just hang around the Oklahoma program for the next 20 years. He's going to be on the road. He's going to be in Tulsa here in the next day or so with, I think, Coach Manning. And then he might be heading out to Denver probably with DeMarco Murray, and maybe Las Vegas with Murray to go visit some recruits, and they're doing damage control. And it's going to be interesting to see that, OU's going to hire someone. I'm going to say it's going to be before Wednesday or on Wednesday, at the latest by Wednesday. Someone's going to be hired.
That is the biggest take, because I absolutely hope you're right about that.
Yeah, because I just feel like you're not going to be able to drag this out, because you got National Signing Day on December 15th. So we're a little over 2 weeks away from there. You've got to do damage control. You get a defensive guy, and you maintain the commits of Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy. You might be able to get Kobe McKenzie back in the fold, because he definitely wants to be a Sooner. You just do damage control as fast as you can, and maybe even convince Coach Biedenbaugh to maybe stay. I feel like he's on the fence. He obviously didn't tuck his tail and run out of the program like a few other coaches did. And you might be able to win him over, and he might be able to win a recruit. I know the Sooners lost Demetrius Hunter. He decommitted today, the 3-star from Orange, Texas, the center, but you might be able to keep Biedenbaugh. He was really rolling. He was starting to get some good commits and stuff for especially the 23 class. Could that have been partially because of how hot the recruiting class started? Maybe. But Biedenbaugh is a great coach, and he would be a good guy to try to keep him, Odom, Jamar Kane, and Coach Thibodeau. Those are the position coaches, and Manning too. But I don't know what Manning's going to do, whether he's going or not. I've seen mixed.
If Manning goes on these recruiting trips with Bob Stoops and then ends up leaving, he's even worse than Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you could live with yourself doing that, recruiting a kid to a school.
Why would he go with Bob Stoops recruiting to Oklahoma and then a week later or whatever go to Southern Cal?
Yeah, I mean, odds are maybe whoever they hire, if it's Brent Venables, maybe he wants to bring a guy from Clemson, but I feel like Manning wants to stay.
Yeah, and something to mention about the staff that is sticking around, it is, it's a good look for them. I think that's one thing with Lincoln leaving and how he did is, players that are currently still on OU's roster have had some backlash with posts. We saw Isaiah Thomas comment on a picture that was posted, I think it was by USC Football or a different media outlet, where Lincoln, during this press conference, he said he wanted to make USC the mecca of college football. And Isaiah Thomas commented on there saying he told us that exact same thing last week. Obviously, players aren't happy about it either. But I mean, that kind of stuff will follow him and the coaches that left early this morning, because these kids, they're reacting because they don't like the uncertainty and the potential instability that's about to happen with the program. And even though we know that in the long run it will be fine, they don't. They're young, they're 17 years old, they're trying to figure out how they're going to get to their goal, which is to be in the NFL. And right now Oklahoma doesn't seem like it, because we don't have a captain to the ship.
You're exactly right. And that's why, like Brum said, and I agree wholeheartedly, whoever the guy is, that needs to be done literally as soon as we possibly can get it finalized, or even if like we could do some behind the door crap like Snake Face Riley was doing with USC, whatever. If we can just get if we can get, by we I mean Castiglione, Stoops, whoever it is, Joe Haraz, the president, if they can get an agreement or a verbal agreement, even before it's announced, and get that guy talking to recruits literally as soon as possible, because as you mentioned, they're young kids and they're going to want to know where they fit in with the Oklahoma team that is changing its philosophy with whoever the new guy is. We get him talking to these recruits, and not only recruits, the players currently on the roster as soon as we can.
Yeah, so Brandon's got a good point. We got to get kids in, or we got to get a coach in ASAP to make sure that we're reassuring that the recruits, as well as the players still on the roster, so we don't have any more players entering the transfer portal. Speaking about recruits, I'm just popping in on Twitter while you were talking, Brandon, and Trayon Webb tweeted out just about 12 minutes ago, and he said he is not going to follow anyone and he is not going to attend USC. He's going to make his own path, whatever that means. So I think it still puts Oklahoma in a position where they could bring him in and bring him back to the 2023 class. It just, again, depends on the coach that we have and the OC or DC that we get, depending on who the head coach ends up being. But that's reassuring. We're not completely losing someone, but he's just not 100% committed right now.
No, and that's something that they mentioned. I think it was Joe C. said it himself multiple times. Obviously, he was asked about not only like the players decommitting, but also those entering the portal. And he was like, well, obviously, yeah, as we talked about on the show here, it happens when you lose a coach anytime. But he did mention just because they enter that portal doesn't mean that they go all the way out through the portal. You can still come back. I mean, it's not like it's not like you got fired from a job or whatever, and it's hard to get hired back. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know.
It's not a one-way ticket, basically. Yes. What you're saying. Yeah. It's not a one-way street. Yeah. And, kids could come back. I mean, another thing is the prospects for Hazelwood or Weiss might not be great. You never know. I mean, I'm not saying that it won't be, but there's always an opportunity or a chance that it isn't great. And, sometimes Lincoln Riley might learn, just like these kids, sometimes the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And
if Brent Venables is the guy, do you guys think we bring back any of those defensive commits who changed
Kobe
their
McKenzie,
mind?
Kobe McKenzie. Yeah, I think that one for sure. Derek Moore, I don't know. I don't know. It's tough to tell, but I feel really good about Kobe McKenzie. I mean, he was committed for 2 years. It's tough to just flip a switch like that. And I don't know. I feel like you get your mind made up. I don't know. But I think if Jamar Cain and Thibodeau gets, retained, that could play a big factor into Derek Moore's potential, commitment or recommitment back.
What about guys like Brownlow Dindy?
Oh, I think, well, since he hasn't left as of recording this right now, I think if you hire a guy like Brent Venables, I don't think you have to worry about him leaving. I think he's a program guy.
I think program guy, Brownlow Dindy, what a guy if he is. But we all want Venables at this point, right? There's no point in hiding it. That's what all three of us is our dream scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I know Jose and I on our last video we talked maybe Dave Aranda, and we did talk a little bit about Venables, but I mean, the more I thought about it, Venables won't be a guy that'll jump ship really fast. I mean, think about how many opportunities he had to leave Clemson to go be a head coach somewhere. I feel like he loves OU. He left kind of on rough terms and it was kind of tough for him, but I feel like he really loves the whole university. And I think that's someone you have to have to, I mean, I'm not saying he's the next Bob Stoops or anything or Barry Switzer, but I think it's important to just have a defensive mind as a head coach as the Sooners transition into the SEC, whether that is Brent Venables or Aranda or whoever. I think that's the key, because you think of Nick Saban and what they can do. And I mean, Kirby Smart and all them. I mean, I basically want to build a bully. That's what I want the Sooners to do, and build a bully, and then build a physical build a physical football team.
Try that route, yeah.
Build a physical football team.
We see it all the time in college football. When the head coach is defensive oriented, it's easy to replace your OC if they get taken to a different program as a head coach. Saban does it all the time. It's not uncommon, and if we can have that kind of culture, it will help OU in the long run, because but it will take time. Like, this isn't going to, if we hire Venables, it will help ease the mind of a lot of players and recruits, but it'll be a couple of years before we do have that kind of system.
I was thinking about it earlier, and I was talking to my youngest brother about it, and they also mentioned on the Sports Channel on the way home, if we stay in the Big 12 next year, which I think is likely, and if we somehow retain Caleb Williams, because I think he's going to USC. I hate it, but I think he's going to USC. But if we can keep Caleb Williams and we stay in the Big 12 next year, I think we can win the Big 12 conference next season.
I don't think Caleb is leaving. If anyone's a program guy that's currently on the roster, it's him. He moved.
I think he's a Lincoln guy.
He moved from DC to Norman after his football season got canceled due to COVID. I mean, he's been OU guy through and through, and now it's different now that he's on campus, right? He's experienced what it's like to be a student at OU, to be an athlete at OU, and the love that he gets from our fans and the support he has from the staff. I mean,
because if you hire a defensive-minded coach who can change the culture legitimately on defense and make us, a top 15 defense in the country, Caleb Williams, I think, is good enough on his own to do kind of his own recruiting. And we've got guys, as we mentioned a little bit before, very early on in the show, guys like DeAndre Moore, for instance, Javon Webb, Javonte Barnes. There are guys who are going to stick it out and stay. I think retaining number 13 is the most, first and foremost, that should be the first coaches or the new coaches. Like, that's his first thing he needs to be doing.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like his family, honestly, Joe Castiglione and them, I probably have been talking to the Williams family, because his parents do live in Norman now, or in the OKC area. And I feel like they're going to be heavily involved, or at least let know what the plan is. And if he wants to stick it out, great. If not, then, I mean, if he decides to transfer, obviously there's no scholarship quarterback on the roster that could play in the bowl game, might call up Ralph Rucker.
If Caleb Williams actually transfers, that's when all hell breaks loose. And that's where it's going to be really bad.
I know it's a big concern and a fear for a lot of fans, but there's no reason for Caleb to actually leave. I mean, next year he'll come in with no competition. Yes, there's change.
Lincoln Riley is the reason.
No, again, he moved to Norman. His family moved to Norman. They love the university at this point. They love the
Who was
area.
head coaching the Sooners when they moved?
That doesn't matter.
Who recruited him?
That doesn't matter.
It does matter.
No, it doesn't. You're putting way too much credence into what he was doing at the time for the
Why
university.
did Malachi Nelson decommit in half a second?
Because he's still not on campus. He still has. We don't even know if he's going to be at USC yet. He hasn't said that, and it might be likely, but that's still ways away. We didn't ever have him for sure. For all we know, he could have changed his mind next year. It might have been unlikely, but that was still a possibility. Until he signs that piece of paper that says he's going to be a Sooner, it's not really for real. Just like the kids that we have coming up, if they're going to sign. Once they sign that piece of paper that says, I will be attending the University of Oklahoma here in a couple weeks, that's when it's real. And that's when, if they transfer, it's frustrating. But at this point, it's just their word. And again, they're 17, 18-year-old kids that will change their mind if they see a better opportunity for themselves, which is fine, but we just can't, I think
but
Caleb
that's what
at this
I'm saying.
point.
Do you say Brent Venables is our guy? Let's say that happens. For this hypothetical scenario. If you're Caleb Williams and you're talking about the best possible scenario for yourself, it is not at Oklahoma anymore.
Why is it at USC? What does USC have outside of Lincoln Riley? What's their personnel?
That's it. That's all they need.
No, they don't.
I hate the guy more than anything, but he makes first-round quarterbacks in the league.
What's their personnel look like, dude?
They've already got 3 scholarship quarterbacks right now on the roster at USC.
We'll see. I hope Caleb Williams needs to stay. That needs to be a priority one.
If he were to leave, I would say he goes back to, close to where he grew up and maybe to the East Coast, but I don't expect him to follow Lincoln Riley. If he was going to, I would assume he would have already done so. There's no reason for him to stick around and pretend like he's going to be the quarterback for the future if he wanted to follow Lincoln. So those are my thoughts on Caleb. I just don't see it happening, but I know it's a concern for a lot of fans. There's just been a lot of things happening. I think the good thing is we have had guys like DeAndre Moore, Jacob Sexton, Javante Barnes. I know he hasn't committed yet, but there's guys that are either commits currently, verbal commits to OU right now, or heavy leans for Oklahoma that are saying, I'm sticking with my decision because I love.
Jennings is another one of those guys. I think Luke Haas is going to be one of those guys. No, we're not going to lose every commit that Riley was recruiting, obviously. But we just need, as we said, damage control, whatever word you want to use. We have to make sure we don't lose 80% of these commits. That's when shit gets bad. Or we can't lose some of the young guys. I'm worried about everybody right now. Like Billy Bowman. I mean, he's dating national champion Jada Coleman, so maybe that helps us with him. But Clayton Smith. What about all these young guys on defense that came to play for Grinch?
Here's the deal. You have to sit back and think. Okay, this is a program that's a top 5 program historically that's ever been in college football. The spots, the 22 starting spots on offense and defense are still coveted spots in recruits' minds or players' minds. Just because the coaches change and you want to go look for somewhere else, what happens if a long time ago LSU was recruiting you hard and they're full? Alabama's full, Georgia's full. Are you going to go to an extremely?
I'm not concerned at all about the long-term success of the team. I'm worried about the immediate here and now.
I'm saying right now, that's the problem. The 2022 class for all these other big-time programs, a lot of them are full. They're not going to be able to go everywhere. Not everyone's going to be able to leave.
What about guys like Gentry Williams?
He's from here. His family went here, just like Gabriel Brown-Dendy, except he's not from here. I mean, yeah, he could go play at USC, maybe. But I feel like he knows that there's still a spot there for him. And Oklahoma, just because you might lose a few, you're not going to lose them all. Kids are still going to want to take your scholarship.
I don't want to lose half of them. I don't want to lose over half of them.
They're still going to take your scholarship because just like what Chris McClellan said after he committed to Florida, they're not going to hire any slouch. I mean, coaches leave all the time and kids stay because there's starting spots to be had. I just don't. I mean, you're going to lose some, and we've seen the Sooners have lost a few, but I just don't think you're going to see this mass exodus of we're going to now go from the number 8 recruiting class to the number 100. It's not going to happen. It just
maybe not 100, but not top 10.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's still one of the best ones in the Big 12 right now with all this uncertainty. I just don't think it's going to make.
We just got to get the guy in there sooner than later. That's what it all comes down to.
It's literally we just have to give. I mean, it's literally been 24 hours.
Well, I know.
Literally 24 hours. You can't. This is the truth.
Apparently, USC took Lincoln Riley in 12 hours.
Well, yeah.
That's something else we can talk about once Brum finishes his thought. But
all I was going to say is this is a true trying to find a coach within a few days. Lincoln Riley was not 12 hours.
Yeah, so we're going back to that. Lincoln mentioned that all it took was a Zoom call, and he took a quick nap after the Bedlam game and hopped on a Zoom with the AD and some admin from USC, and then made the decision. And then from what Joe Castiglione and Harose said, that Lincoln gave him a call at 11 a.m. telling him that he was going to entertain the possibility, and then called back a couple hours later telling him that he was leaving. I think it's fair to assume that that's complete BS. From what LA Times posted this morning on their website, these conversations, not just with Riley, but with coaches like Luke Fickell and Matt Campbell, have been going on for weeks, at least with the representation. And maybe this is the first time they had a face-to-face with Lincoln, but Lincoln knew what he was going into. And from my thoughts and opinion is two things could have happened here. He is telling the truth, and he has been looking for a way out of Oklahoma for months now because he didn't like the SEC move. That seems to be the only big difference, which we mentioned yesterday in our video. The only big difference in the program right now is that we're leaving to the SEC soon. The other thing is he's just lying and being a snake, like Brandon has said a few times today. And he's, again, making his reputation even worse, not just with Oklahoma fans, but with recruits for the future. Obviously, kids are still going to like him because he has had success, but parents aren't going to forget this kind of stuff. And the parents are just as much part of the discussion and to where their kids are going as much as the players own.
Did you see what Charles Rambo's mom tweeted today?
No, what'd you say?
She mentioned Lincoln Riley specifically, and also another coach, and I can't remember which coach it was. But it was,
Dennis
I
Simmons.
think it was Simmons. Dennis Simmons, yeah, you saw it, Brum, yeah. Something about how the only thing I learned from this move is Dennis Simmons and Lincoln Riley do not care about your kids. It's like, and that was Charles Rambo's mother. I mean, obviously he's the guy that was recruited probably by Lincoln Riley and company. And it goes off your point. Yeah, his reputation is. It has to take a little bit of a hit because at the end of the day, we'll say what you want. Even if it was spur of the moment, which I think we all think is probably not the truth, what he did was shitty. Simply put.
Yeah, I think, and during the press conference, that's something that Bob and Josie said they told the team when they walked in after Lincoln left and telling him that he was taking the job at SC is Oklahoma football is not about one coach or one person. It's about the players as a unit going on the field. And I think at this point, that'll be the message moving forward until we have a new head coach.
I wish we knew Bob Stoops' actual legitimate, real, like his actual feelings about this matter. Because, the way that fans are hurt, I'm one of them who's very hurt. I'm sure recruits are hurt by this. Bob Stoops literally laid out the red carpet for this guy, handed him the keys to everything. And he kind of, spit in his face.
Yeah, Bob said that though that's going to be kept between him and Lincoln. But
that's what I'm saying. I wish I knew what is, because I'm sure it's not nice things.
The reporters did ask him and Joe during the conference how they felt about it, and Bob, he seemed frustrated. He said he wasn't happy about it. He said the one word disappointed, I believe was his exact word. And then, mentioned that he was going to keep his specific thoughts between him and Lincoln. And that was going to be a conversation they're going to have or have already had. But when Joe talked about it, he looked actually very hurt by Lincoln's decision. Like personally, I'm not going to say he was gonna cry, but it seemed like it was something that, him and Lincoln probably had a great relationship, and that definitely
that's the thing that was so screwed up about the press conference. They talked multiple times about how they were having conversations about the future, about how to be better once they're in the SEC, how to just continue to build on what they're building at Oklahoma, and to have him just kind of flip the switch. But I mean, as we've alluded to, we think he probably knew this, but he's just lying to all of them.
Yep.
He's burned a lot of bridges. It is what it is. At this point, I'm ready to turn the page on Riley. I think there's been enough talk about him. It is what it is at this point. He's dead to us, and there's no point in crying over spilled milk at this point. It's time to move on. And if it's Brent Venables, I'm excited.
If it's Brent Venables, we'll have an emergency podcast, and then we're all going to be splooging a little bit in our juice boxes.
Yeah, I think you're right. At this point, let's look at the future. There have been positive things to come out of this. Again, DeMarco Murray being an MVP with recruiting and other position coaches, something that we mentioned in our recruiting videos multiple times. Yes, kids go play for the head coach all the time, but the position coaches are just as important to them, because those are the guys they will be spending most of the day with. They'll be, making their player development with the position coach, not with Lincoln Riley. And, the position coaches that are sticking around love Oklahoma, and they've obviously showed that to recruits, and we're going to go a long way. Just, again, hopefully it is by Wednesday or later this week. I'd be okay with waiting to hear who it's going to be. If they want to go ahead and just ruin whoever wins the Big 12 celebration, just announce it right as the clock hits 0. Blank person is a new Oklahoma head coach. That way everyone just forgets that potentially Oklahoma State won the Big 12.
Did you guys probably not? I'm on Twitter too, as you're making your point. Perrin Winfrey posted on Instagram, all capital letters, the word fold, FOLD, and then a couple dots. That's against the code, and code's in all capital letters. And it's a picture of him, Isaiah Thomas, and Alex Grinch. IT is shaking hands with Alex Grinch, and he tagged Isaiah Thomas, and he put on Alex Grinch, it says World of Snakes.
Yeah, guys aren't happy. And again,
they're not happy. Yeah.
That goes to show the abruptness of the move, how people are going to perceive, not just fans, because at the end of the day, our opinions only matter to us and others that view the same, the situation the same. But these players will remember this over the next 2 or 3 recruiting cycles, and some of them will take that into account. Will Lincoln just decide to leave to the NFL after me being here for a couple of years? That's a very good possibility. Coaches at USC do it all the time. They're in a big market. NFL teams see them. Maybe that's Lincoln's next move, and that's something that kids are going to think about.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. Good luck to him. Whatever. I mean, I would love to see our, the Sooners SEC defense go against a little Pac-12 physical football team that he claims that they're going to build out there. I don't think he hasn't been able to truly build a physical football team. They've gotten better, but he's not going to be able to build one out in the Pac-12.
Not for a long time, at least.
I don't even think they're going to be able to, because that's not the Pac-12 way. It's all the offense. The SEC is.
That guy could just hover around 6-6, 7-5 for about 3 or 4 seasons, and then get demoted to an offensive quality assistant coach at Southeastern Missouri State Institute of Technology State. That would be the dream scenario.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I'm hoping by the time this podcast is released, maybe there is a head coach, and we have to do another podcast for everyone. Brent Venables.
Yep.
Brent Venables.
Whoever our next head coach is going to get the bag.
Let's all just speak the positive Brent Venables juice into the world.
I agree. Oklahoma's going to have to make $100 million offer plus for a long time to whoever our next head coach is. Brian Kelly just got 10 years, $100 million. So we're going to be dropping a bag here soon, but do you guys have any last thoughts before we end it for today?
I don't think it's going to take $100 million to get Brent Venables. He makes $1.7 million right now at Clemson. I don't think it's going to take that much.
But is it not like is it not like in the NFL, no matter what you're making now, like Patty Mahomes changed the game forever for elite quarterbacks. Is it not a similar game in the college coaching ranks where he can be like,
I think so.
They just gave Kelly $100 million. Like, I feel like I'm somewhere there.
Yeah.
We'll see how it works. Let's just land the guy and let's keep Caleb Williams.
Maybe 5 years 40, 5 years 50. I don't know, but we'll see. And other than that, I'm just ready for a coach to be named so we can start doing more recruiting videos and focusing on the future.
100%.
Let's get it done. We're all in agreement that we want that to happen as quickly as possible.
Yep. Well, if you guys made it this far, congratulations. This was a long video, longer than normal. We really appreciate you sticking around for this long. Make sure you go down to the comments section. Let us know what you think about Oklahoma's future. I know everyone has different opinions on Lincoln Riley, so drop them down there. I'm sure you disagreed with some of the things that we said today, so let us know what you think. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, all that fun jazz. Other than that, we'll see you next time.